So, welcome back to another episode of Uncut and Uncensored with Caroline Stanbury. And today I'm joined by um, Joseph Tito, who is also the author and creator of the Dad Diaries. Welcome, Joseph. We've been trying to get this in for a long time, so I'm excited to have you
Long
finally.
time.
Well, you are successfully. Um, you have two babies via surrogacy. So I'm very excited to go through
I'm
this journey with
a
you. And
successful two baby father.
yes, exactly. Explain or tell me about, your journey and how you created Dad Diaries and why.
So I was actually, when I first decided to become a dad, I was actually in Dubai, in the Armani Hotel in the Burj Khalifa after another debaucherous night. I looked around the room at my Louis Vuitton bags and everything I could have wanted. And I said to myself, there has to be more to life than this. I was making TV shows. I was flying all over the world. Pretty much the life you're having now that I see on social media, which is amazing. Don't get me wrong. But something was missing. Something was missing, and I grew up in a very Italian traditional household where, families first and always family, family, family. And so that's when I decided. I said, no, I want to have a baby, and that's kind of where my journey started. And then I went through, God, so much research online on how I could have a baby. I mean, being a gay man is not easy. It's not like waking up one day and your girlfriend's like, "Oh, I'm pregnant." So I looked into adoption, but again, I was living in the Middle East at the time, and adoption in the Middle East is illegal pretty much. I looked all over the world, and again, being a single gay man, it wasn't ideal. And so then I looked into surrogacy, and I found an agency that they were an Indian agency. And so since I was in Bahrain at the time, living in Bahrain, it was relatively close. And so I decided to take that route. And then they're like, no, you can't, because you need to be, one of the intended parents has to have an Indian descent or Indian passport. And so that agency actually opened up in Kenya, and they were advertising same-sex couples and single males. And so that's where my journey began.
I mean, that's pretty amazing because I live in Dubai, obviously, and there's so many firsts in what you've just been saying. I understand what you mean about the lifestyle here. It can chew you up and spit you out, and if you want to get into that party scene, you can live in it. Most people, I'm very lucky because I live slightly outside. I live in Barari, which is like an oasis, and I sort of have this quieter lifestyle. But, if you've ever been to Dubai, people, it is a party haven. And I do think that we
Yes.
get to a certain age and think, there must be more than this. And I think the reason I have, and remember, I have three grown up children, I'm in a bit of a different situation. And surrogacy now is legal here, which is great, but they don't actually have,
Oh, it is.
yeah, it's legal now, but they don't have
Okay.
there's no agencies or anything. So I have looked into it too, because for exactly the reasons you're saying, I do feel that one day Sergio might wake up, and that's what I have to wrap around my head. And because he's very family oriented too, he says it doesn't matter, but it probably does. But whether that's, something that he can get past or not, because the older I get, the grumpier I get. I don't know if I can do children again.
The
Um,
less patience you have.
Yes, the less patience, the more selfish we are. I've got three kids, and they're all sort of grown up. But Kenya, so I actually looked at the Ukraine because obviously, I mean, I've looked at America, but I just feel it's just way too far. I mean, how much when you did Kenya, how much involvement and you do all this do you get? How does it work?
So, I mean, why I didn't do it in North America was because the laws of surrogacy in North America are still. I mean, I think they were written in like 1972, where here the surrogate has all the power. Meaning, and I know friends that have had a baby and that have been in legal courts with the surrogate because she then decided to keep the baby, and they're paying child support and they don't have their baby.
Oh my
Yeah,
God,
it's crazy.
that is insane.
And so that, I mean, it doesn't happen a lot, but it can happen. And so that's why for me, Kenya was cheaper. I was
I
a
mean, they
single
are
dad.
crazy prices, by the way. How much is Kenya?
Oh, in Kenya, I spent, I think at the end of the day, through everything, I spent about $90,000,
Right.
which isn't a lot.
No.
Me and my husband just went through it again last year. We spent $250,000, and we don't have a baby.
What?
And we did it, yeah, like we did that this year, and we did it in Mexico. But the good thing about Kenya was that the agency, you pay one price until she gets pregnant. I went through by myself 4 embryo transfers, so 4 failed embryo transfers, and then they called me and they're like, you need to change your egg donor because it's just not working. And then I changed my egg donor, and then there were twins.
How do you feel
But
about
yeah,
that?
Kenya was. I'm sorry.
Did you want twins?
No, I was a single dad. I wanted a girl, one girl. I wanted,
Well, I felt
and
the same. I got 2 boys. When I did IVF, I was like, oh my God, I don't want twins. And I got twins too. Oh my goodness. It is life
yeah.
changing. How do you cope with
Oh,
twins?
how did I cope with twins?
Mm.
Well, I moved back, so I sold my production company in Bahrain, closed up shop, moved back here. I Once I found out I was having twins, I built my parents' basement apartment into a 2 bedroom basement apartment because I needed my parents.
Oh,
There's
that's
no way
clever.
I could have done it on my own. And nothing. How did I cope with it? I cried every day for 6 months.
Hmm.
I didn't know what was up or
Wait,
down.
hang
I
on a minute.
mean, and
You cried every day for 6 months. So do you have regret for going through all this or any?
absolutely not.
No. Okay.
Absolutely not. No, no, no. My girls are my life. And I mean, I couldn't picture my life any other way. And I just like the first 6 months of their lives was particularly difficult. Like I wasn't sleeping. I didn't know who I was feeding, who I wasn't feeding. I was just all over the place. And that's why you're just crying from exhaustion.
Yeah.
Like it's just complete. And then again, my life, I was a jet setter all over the world. I picked up and went wherever I wanted. And from there to being stuck in a basement apartment back at my parents' house in my 40s, I was like, okay, what's my life? What has my life become?
I
But
mean, you
no, no,
must
no,
have
no. I
had a
do not.
minute of like, what the fuck have I done to myself? Because,
Oh, every for 6 months, what
yes,
the fuck have I done to myself?
yes.
I was crying every day. I was like, I can't believe I did this. This is hard. It's hard.
It's
I
so
mean,
hard. And
raising.
it's amazing that you, as a father, have seen that because I think men don't really understand how hard it
No,
is. And
no,
it's a thankless task and it's an endless one because my husband sees now, his friends come over with a baby and, but they leave in an hour. Anyone can cope with a baby for an hour, 2 hours even. Leave a baby 48 hours, 72 hours. And let's see what happens. And that's really, Sergio has such a cute idea that we're just going to dress him nice and he's going to be a fun baby. There's no such thing as a fun baby. You need to understand what's
no.
about to happen to you.
Yeah, no, it's and it's crazy because I have a lot of my followers are women and moms on social media, and the responses I get from them, like their husbands have never changed a diaper.
Hmm.
I'm like, how has your husband never changed a diaper? Like, they have 3 kids, 4 kids. Yeah, it's crazy how men don't really understand, and I think that's why the Dad Diaries did so well because I mean, women are like, "Oh my God, you're a man. You're doing this.
And you
You're
get
you're
it.
raising 2 kids. You're changing your diapers. You're feeding. You're this. You're that." And yeah, I mean, I think men need to step it up and really, you know what it's like to even for women that they're not working. They're stay at home moms. Yeah, but they're going crazy
Crazy.
all day.
How
Like,
did you persuade your parents to come and help you? Like, I mean, you would have been
oh my God,
seriously fucked if they hadn't.
oh yeah, no, 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 no. My parents were amazing. My parents were. At first, I didn't tell my dad. My mom my mom is typical Italian mom. Like she would be living here right now. Like it's but so when I first started, I was scared to tell my dad because again, very traditional Italian family. The whole gay thing is like, now we talk about it. I mean, I got married last year and he was all excited and all that. But when he found out about it, he was super excited. He was more excited than my mom. And like, I knew, I mean, my family, no matter what, I knew they'd be there. And I think that also was the reason why I went ahead with it, because I knew I wouldn't be alone. And I have amazing friends and girlfriends all over the world that are just, there for the girls anytime I need them. But yeah, my parents were surprisingly, especially my dad, ecstatic about it.
I mean, but I mean, I've brought up twins, so I know how hard it is, and it's relentless. You finish one and you've got to start the other. I mean, my poor twins never went out the house. I don't know how you see people with double buggies going anywhere. I would get a double buggy ready, and by the time I'd prepared the double buggy, I was like, fuck that, I'm exhausted, and go straight back to my kitchen. And it was like, it's just not even fun. At least with one
Yeah.
child, you get to wear that cute little picture and you put them in the papoose and you can go down the road and then you
Yeah.
can just,
Yeah.
that's all you need. When you have two, it's like preparing for like, a lockdown. It's like you have to take everything with you double,
Everything with you.
and you can't get
No,
through
when
doors.
I would go out with would go out with one, I'd be like, oh my God, I could like drink my
Yeah.
coffee. I could like do stuff.
Yeah.
It's like it was crazy. Yeah, no, it's twins are hard. Like one baby's hard, two babies are it's double, double as hard. But yeah, no, I mean, you get used to it. Like now, I mean, I remember even feeding, like I got it down to a pact. I had one in my leg, one in my arm. I was like, you get used to it. So now, like the idea of having, and I was really excited about the idea with my husband now to have another baby, and I was excited. I was like, oh my God, we're gonna have one. We're gonna do everything in our power to have one. Knowing us, we would have had twins again. I would have killed myself, but no. I was excited to have one baby because I was like, because then as a twin parent, you're like, am I giving them enough? Like I had to determine whose cry was harder to go to. Like, they were both crying, but like one needed me more. And I always have this guilt of like, do I give them enough? Do I give them enough love? Do I give them enough? I have one girl who's just, no matter what she does, she's perfect. Whether it's gymnastics, whether it's school, whether I can't praise her too much because then the other one gets angry and gets upset. And then I'm like, but then I'm not giving her enough praise. Is she not, you know what I mean? So as a, like,
I totally get
as a
it. I
twin.
have I have twins, and like typical example today, my son broke his phone last night, and my other son, had a phone for his birthday, so he's so upset that I bought his brother a phone today, and he's like, "Well, what's that for? It better not be a better one than mine." So I had to like downgrade the phone so that he wouldn't be so upset that he got a new phone. It wasn't for his birthday, but it's a phone. So I can't have my son not having a phone, right? At all. And it just happened like that. So, it's competitiveness all the way through. They have different
And then
friends.
two girls
Oh my God.
and try two girls competing against each other is like,
They don't want to have birthday
they,
parties together. They don't have the same friends. I have to organize two of everything. So I totally hear you. And I can't even imagine doing that as a single father. And as a father, men aren't naturally born for this. I don't even know how you go from the Armani hotel, because that is a scene, looking at your Louis Vuitton, to doing this. I really don't. Um, it is crazy to me that you would make such a life change.
yeah, I mean, if you look,
Do you ever
to
miss this
me, it
life?
was just, I do the traveling I miss, but I
Yeah.
mean now like my husband loves to travel. I travel all the time with the girls. We're gone at least 3-4 times a year. Um,
How's it impacting
do
your
I
work?
what I miss? I'm sorry.
How's it impacted your business now? So you're, well,
Oh
obviously,
well, I left. I left completely. So I was a director and producer.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing the first reality TV shows in the Middle East for the outside world. I have shows on ITV and Netflix. And
Oh, wow.
so that when I moved back to Canada, I was like, okay, well, what? And then I was making a shit ton of money, like tax free in the Middle East, right? So now it's not tax free anymore. I know there's like a, anyway,
It's
when I left, it
5%
was
or
still tax
something. Yeah.
free. Yeah. And so I was like, I'm going to go back to Canada and do what? I have to be making 6 times what I'm making now after taxes just to maintain my lifestyle. And then I can't go back into production. I mean, production, like sometimes you're working 18 hours a day for 2 months straight until the show's done or until, so I knew I couldn't go back into production. I did when I came back here, but the Canadian TV industry is just horrible. And so I was like, what am I going to do? And that's when I started social media. And that's when I started the Dad Diaries. And I just started I started the Dad Diaries, I started vlogging my journey. And just for myself, and also because when I was going through it, like there wasn't much information. And so I took everything I blogged and I put it on social media and it went crazy. People just related to it. And I was, I bitch about parenting. I just, it's a funny parenting lifestyle uh, account, right? And people just are attracted to it, and it's authentic and it's real. And thank God I got into social media because then I was able to work from home. So now my full-time job is being an influencer, right? So I work from home. I'm able to be with my girls. I'm able to take them to school. I'm able to take them to gymnastics, to dance, to do all the stuff that they need to do. And my life has become my work. So it's perfect. I had to completely switch. Like I didn't go back to production. And it's kind of, I am doing production because I'm constantly creating content and for brands and for myself and stuff like that. So it is mini productions, which I love. It's just had to switch in terms of like now it was no longer kind of what I wanted to do, but it was more specific to parenting.
I mean, I think that's a really interesting point because, I always make fun as well that a lot after babies, that's when divorce happens a lot and all of these things. Because, people rush into having children and glamorize having children, that you're just meant to have children for the sake of having children. That's because what we've always been taught society wise that we should do. But if more people were honest about parenting and how hard it really is, I don't know why we're pushing 25-year-olds and, young girls into having babies so early because your life completely changes. And, like I still went to work, I still do everything, but, you get a lot of mum guilt and you get a lot of people hate for it. And if I would actually say, put it off for as long as you can, and enjoy your marriages, because most marriages, that is the hardest time, because most marriages don't survive babies and, bringing up children, because it is such hard work, and it's really not told to you how hard it is, because people just visit you and
No.
tell you your baby is gorgeous and then they leave and you don't really see how hard it is until you have one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, it's definitely like I'm glad I waited. Like I waited, like I'm gonna be 45 this year.
yeah,
So I waited till I was 40. But that was another thing. I was like, I do not wanna be a 60-year-old with a toddler.
no.
Like I don't have the energy now. Like I can't even imagine. So but at the same time, I'm glad. Like I lived my life. Like all over I like thank God I had that experience, right? I got to experience my life, live my life, did what I needed to do. So then when the babies did come, I don't feel like I mean,
You don't feel like
some
you
people are
missed
still
out.
they're having babies at 22, 23. I'm like, you have your whole like there's so much life to live.
Yeah.
And then what? You're gonna have a baby and then you can't. Like for the first I'm gonna say good 4 or 5 years, you're not gonna be doing what you want to do.
Let
You
me tell
can't.
you, it
You
doesn't
gotta
get
be there.
easier. It doesn't get
I
easier.
know.
It gets
Oh,
harder.
I'm terrified. Like I'm. they're already sassy, and I mean, that's my fault. Like they're in like Gucci and Prada and already asking for that stuff. So I'm just terrified when they like get their period. Like, and I'm a bitch, but like they take after me. So my husband's scared. He's like, honestly, when the girls are teens, I'm leaving. Like I can't.
So
Like
tell me,
already, I got you bitching at me. Like
how did you meet your husband in this chaos? How did he find
no,
a single
that
dad
was
of
a
two
funny story.
girls and go, that's the man for me? He seems like he needs help.
So we actually dated before the girls were born. So I was still in the Middle East, closing up shop. I was working on a show here in Florida, actually, but I was in Toronto. And so we met online and we went on a date. We had a couple dates and it went really well. Like he's like we're very but like our families are very similar, very Italian, very like we're very 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 similar. And it was going great. And he broke up with me though. But I mean, I get it. I'm like, there's this guy that's half in the Middle East, half in Toronto, coming back with twins. He was like, there's just too much going on in your life right now. So whatever, we broke up, and which was good because I needed. I mean, was it good? No. If I would known we would have got married, it would have been better if he was with me right from the beginning. But whatever. Then that was that. And once the girls were born, I mean, I wasn't dating. I didn't even know who I was, let alone going out on a date. And so I spent my time with my girls, and they needed that time, me with them 100%. And then when they turned 2, he came crawling back, I'm going to say. And he hates when I say that, but it's true. And he just called and was like, I'd love to go take you on a date again and this and that. And I was very standoffish and very like, whatever happens, happens. And that was it. Then we got married last year, and
Oh, that's
it's
so
so
nice.
much easier. So
Of
much easier
course.
with 2 incomes.
Oh, amazing. Two incomes and, two pairs of hands. So
Oh yeah.
take me through, first of all, you were talking before about the price in Kenya. So how much was it in Kenya? And take me through the process because I
So
think,
I spent about
oh, yeah.
$80,000 with that, and that's with everything, like then hotels and staying there. And then I mean, I got stuck in Kenya. So that's also why the Dad Diaries blew up, because I was all over the news, went viral. They wouldn't let me come back home with.
Why?
So I was born in Italy. My mom was Canadian, so that made me Canadian right away. But that makes me second generation Canadian. And my kids, unless born in Canada, do not get automatic citizenship. So I knew about this, but I sent all my paperwork to the embassy. They assured me everything was fine. Then the day we had to leave to come back to Toronto from Kenya, the embassy's like, no, you're not. You can't. We're not giving citizenship to your kids.
Oh, wow.
And so I was like, what the fuck? Like, I'm in a third world country with two newborns. Thank God my mom was with me, and nothing. And because I was on social media and because of my influence on social media, my women followers, I love them. They went ape shit and they just bombarded the embassy. I had Trudeau email office, the prime minister's office email me. It went everywhere to the point of the Kenyan embassy and government gave me a temporary travel document and said, get out of the country because we're done. We don't want any other like backlash. And so we got a temporary travel document and I left. But my girls were stateless for the first 9 months of their
Oh,
life.
wow.
They didn't have a
That's
country.
that's completely traumatic
And
on top of
that's
everything
actually
else.
legal to have. Yeah.
So would you
And so
advise,
finally I had to,
go on,
sorry.
go on.
No, I was saying I had to sponsor them. So it took about 9 months for them to get their permanent residency. And then I had to apply for their passport. So now they're Canadian. After 2.5 years of their life, they're now fully Canadian.
I mean, I think surrogacy is so scary to anybody. I mean, I like always worry that somebody is going to want to keep your egg. Then I'm worried about the country. Like how do you know, like how are these women where do they live when you're doing it in Kenya? What are they eating? How much do you know about the mother of the woman that's carrying them?
So you, through agencies, generally you don't know anything, and they don't even want you to have contact with the surrogate. It depends. Sorry, in North America you do. In North America you can meet the surrogate. You can, but anyways, with that agency, no. Luckily, I had a friend who she was doing her doctorate in Mombasa, and so I had her meet the surrogate through the agency, and she actually got her number. So I was in contact with the surrogate daily. Like I would send music I liked, my voice. So like, I mean, the girls could hear my voice, and so I was luckily enough. I had that contact with her, and I think they don't want you to have contact because then, like you said, like the surrogates could ask for stuff or blackmail you and say, I'm not going to give you your baby if it's scary. It's you're again, you're
How
not
did you
dealing with
know
a
that you were going to get your
baby.
baby exactly?
Was I'm
Like,
sorry.
what are the rules there? How do you know that you're going to get your baby? What are the laws like?
Well, that's the thing. The thing is, there we were the first set of intended parents. So after we went, so 10 days before I had to fly to Kenya, I got a call, an email saying you need to bring a woman with you. And I was like, okay, I'm bringing my mom. They're like, no, no, you need to bring a woman with you to act as your wife in order to get your babies. And if you don't bring a woman, we'll be happy for $10,000 to provide you with one. So already there was false advertising.
Yeah.
Mombasa is very Muslim country. They don't accept gays. They don't accept. So I had to, thank God I had my girlfriend from Saudi who was like a hop, skip, and a jump away. And she like flew over and was being my wife. We took pictures and showed and this and that. And it's, for a gay man, I was so angry. Like I said, I did this because I'm not afraid of who I am. I'm not ashamed of who I am. This is who I am, and I want to have babies. But then I was forced to
Pretend you're someone you're not.
lie
Yeah.
and pretend. And again, of course, I'm going to do it because it's not for me; it's for my babies.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I worked in Saudi Arabia being a gay man. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not. But I had to. I had to pretend to be someone else. I had to. So I mean, a lot of people ask me if you were to do it again and this and that. Like, obviously, if I were to do it again, I wouldn't change anything because Stella and me are my life. But to anyone who's starting, I tell them, listen, make sure you do it in a country that you know the laws. You have access to these people easily. Like if I were like the second time we did it, it was in Mexico, so it was a 2 hour flight from where we are, and it would have been a lot easier. They were a lot more open. There was an American agency the second time around, but again, I didn't get a baby after $250,000.
And what
So
they just say, that's it. You pay $250,000 and then you
no,
don't.
we could have kept paying. We could have kept paying. Every embryo transfer is $25,000. I got to buy the eggs as another $15,000. I had to buy this, and then I wanted. They have embryo glue now, like for $1,800. Of course, we're paying this much money. We wanted. You have embryo glue, great, use it. You have this, great, use it. So we had to buy four sets of eggs from four different women, and it didn't take. We had embryos, they would put them in. One took, and then she had a miscarriage at 3 months. And then again, you pay again and you pay again. That's why originally I had picked this agency, because you pay once and that was it. But this agency here that we chose, we would have kept going. So after $250,000, we were like, okay, we have two beautiful girls. We love to travel. We love, our lifestyle. If another baby comes into the mix, I mean, 5 is definitely harder than 4 when you're traveling. So it's like, well, what do we do? Do we keep going? Do we keep putting money in hopes that it would take? Because there's no guarantee, right?
You know what
So
I
we were just
feel?
kind of like, we looked at each other.
You have two beautiful girls, and I feel that people get so tied up with what they don't have instead of looking at what they do have. And, there are a lot of couples out there with none. And that's how I felt, because I had Yasmin and then my two boys were IVF. And, I had a miscarriage in between. And I was like, you know what? It's okay if nothing happens for me because I have one. And I kept reminding myself that other women don't have any, and we're blessed. And I think that horrible cycle of like, I want it, I want it, I want it, that we get stuck in instead of, and that money, the 250 or whatever now, if instead of blowing another 250, that's going to be their schooling, your travel, your holiday, your lifestyle, and you guys have an amazing time. And I think sometimes we just have to look and accept. And
Yeah.
I think that that's
Well, that's what we
yeah,
did. That's what we did. It was like the first time around I kept going because again, I didn't have a baby and I wanted like so I just kept going. And in fact, my memoir is coming out soon about that. Uh, but this time around, like that's exactly it. What you said, like we looked at each other and we're like, and then it's not easy. Like people think it's easy. It's like when an embryo transfer happens, and then you got to wait 21 days, and you're there waiting and waiting and waiting, and then the embryo takes, and you're so excited, and then you start picturing a life, and you start picturing okay, and then you find out it's a boy, and it's like oh my god, it's like okay perfect, and then miscarriage. Like I know we're not the woman, and like we don't physically suffer, but mentally it was a roller coaster. Like it was my husband. Like for me, it was like I experienced the baby stage, and before we went through it, I'm like, are you sure? Like
yeah,
the girls are out of diapers. Like, are you sure? And for him, he didn't
yeah.
experience
So
that.
it's hard.
So
It's hard
I
to say.
wanted him,
Yeah.
and he wanted to experience that baby stage. I'm like, okay, but after it was like, he's like, I can't do it mentally anymore. I can't. It's
No.
killing me. It was a year of up and down and up and down and up and down. And it's
No.
like, okay, enough, enough.
I mean,
It's hard. It's a hard,
it's hard for anyone. It really is, and it's such a soul destroying process, and that's why it's a very confusing one. It's very hard to know where to go, to which countries. There are so many downfalls, and there's also the added side of like I heard randomly Khloe Kardashian saying how hard she found it just being delivered a baby 9 months later. That I would be the same if I have a surrogate. I know that in my head I'll forget that she's even there, and because I'm so busy, I'll just get on with my life. And then suddenly I'm going to get that phone call saying you've got to pick up your baby. And that must be very weird. Very, very weird because you're not prepared. At least when I had babies, all my babies, you saw them. You
you
were
go through the
reminded every
nesting
day.
stage.
Yes. To be just handed one must be incredibly bizarre. Even though she's is
Well,
coming.
well, oh God, that time in my life, I was closing shop and moving and transferring and failed embryo transfer after failed embryo transfer, breaking up because I had a partner when I started, and then we broke up after the second failed embryo transfer, and then I was going on it by myself. And so luckily I had, and then I was like, fuck, I'm going back to Toronto with two babies. So I have my loft in the city, but I'm like, what am I going to do by myself with two babies in a loft? So like, luckily I had like, again, my parents. So I was nesting. So I had that in my head, like, okay, the girls are coming. And then like my whole world then became like getting ready for it. So luckily I had that. But yeah, like what you're saying, like now it would have been just, yeah, all of a sudden, okay, your baby's here. Let's go. Let's do this. Forget about everything your life was because it's not going to be that anymore.
I mean, I
Oh,
love what you do because I think it's so important. And I think, as I said, so many men don't get it and put so much pressure on women to do something. And you really shouldn't do this, ladies, unless you're ready because, it's a whole different world and a whole different life. And I want to tell young girls just to, wait. So thank you for coming on and sharing your story and also, how hard it is to go through surrogacy because I know that it's a whole minefield out there. Tell everyone how they can find you and read your vlogs and watch you and follow you because it's absolutely
yeah. Well, you
fascinating.
could find me on YouTube, The Dad Diaries, or thedaddiaries.com, or on Instagram, The Dad Diaries. And it's really easy. And like I said, if you guys want to know what parenting is really like, unfiltered and uncut. I just, like I said, I complain a lot, but I love my girls, and I wouldn't change my life for anything in the world. But I tell you as it is, like it's not. In fact, if you go on my Instagram yesterday, I just posted a really funny reel of this infomercial. Um, it's just, yeah, like, yeah.
I'm the same. I live with three mini pickpockets, as I call them, and I also tell you what's real, and I love that because you're saying things that people want to say but are too scared to say. That's the truth.
Yeah.
There isn't a
And I think
yeah.
for for me is a little bit easier being a man, because I think if a woman would say the stuff that I say, women would tear her apart. Like,
Oh no.
you women are vicious.
Probably.
But I think because I'm a man and I'm a dad, people are like, "Oh yes, I agree with you,"
But we've
and they
all
don't say
we've all
anything.
thought it. Let me tell you, we've all thought it. Love our little darlings. Thank you, Joseph. It's been really, really enlightening, and I've really loved having you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure. Thank you for listening to another episode of Uncut and Uncensored with Caroline Stanbury. Don't forget to rate and subscribe.